Mr. Speaker, to the resolution.
To the resolution.
Colleagues, why are we here? Each of us has left our families, our businesses, our homes to come to this Capitol. And why would we do that? Because we have been selected and elected by thousands of our neighbors, who we call constituents, to come to this Capitol to represent them in this form of government that we have called a representative democracy. House Bill 100 seeks to circumvent that, and that would be a mistake. We are sent here in this form of government as a representative for our constituents so that we will spend the time to delve into the complexities and unintended consequences of bills, so that we will spend the time to research in depth the various factors and factions and coalitions and aspects of various issues that face our state. We are sent here to determine what is best for all of the state. And why? Because the electorate, the citizens, do not have the time to come and do what they sent us here to do. We are sent here as we consider House Joint Resolution 100. We are sent here to understand that the cost of health care in Oregon is between $18 billion and $22 billion a year, just for Oregon. We are sent here to understand that if there's 600,000 uninsured Oregonians, and there's actually more than that, then even at only $4,500 to $4,800 a year in medical expenses per person, that's $3 billion of cost that has to be paid somehow. We are sent here as we consider this important issue to determine how would those costs be paid. It's not enough to merely say, let's let a one-sentence amendment to the Constitution be made and just see what happens. That kind of social experimentation took place over 200 years ago when our nation was forming. And as a result of what was done, we have this representative democracy, this form of government where the people say, we don't want to make decisions on partial truths, inadequate information, or sound bites. We want decisions to be made on thorough, in-depth representation by each of our 60 representatives for each of the districts and 30 senators. And so we're sent here to do that. And it's not right to merely say, this is a tough issue, so why don't we just send it off to the people and let them make a decision and then see what happens. See where that $3 billion comes from every year. Because we've understood where it comes from. We know where it comes from. Because if this goes into the Constitution as a fundamental right, then it is superior to other rights in the Constitution. It has a higher level of scrutiny, strict scrutiny, as it's viewed by the courts. And the courts only view certain rights as fundamental rights, and those get high priority. Can you imagine what would happen if this body decided, well, it's a lot of money to fund elections, and so we just won't fund elections? Elections are a fundamental right. The ability to vote is a fundamental part of our system. And the courts would say, legislature, you don't have the ability to just circumvent such a right by saying you're not going to fund it. You will fund it. And if we place health care as a fundamental right in this Constitution, and it's $3 billion a year, we will force the judiciary to say the people have spoken, and therefore, legislature, you do not have the right to not fund health care any more than you have the right not to fund the election process. And so come up with the $3 billion. So maybe we'll just raise the taxes. It's been suggested maybe a 24 to 26% additional payroll tax would fund this. Well, that would go well, wouldn't it, with your constituents and with mine? We'll just raise the payroll tax so that for every dollar of payroll that an employer pays, it'll go up to $1.26.
Representative Kreml yields.
That certainly is not going to fly. How about other taxes? Maybe we'll just raise other taxes. How about a sales tax? Maybe we'll just do that. Try it for the 10th time. Do we remember Measure 28, Measure 30, and how the last two times that this body sought to raise taxes, that we were given that proposal back to us by the voters on a platter? And so assume that the taxpayers vote for this but do not want to increase taxes. Where does the money come from? It's a fundamental right. It comes from education. It comes from public safety. It comes from programs for the children, programs for the seniors, because they would not be held to the same standard as a fundamental right in the Constitution as funding elections or funding health care if this were to be passed. Colleagues, we have been sent here to consider these things, to consider the consequences of what takes place in this building and what bills are drafted by our legislative council. We've discussed fundamental rights and fundamental responsibilities, but ultimately, we have the responsibility, the burden that's been placed on our shoulders by those who selected and elected us to be here to make wise decisions, to anticipate the long-term consequences of the decisions that are made, and to vote for what's best for Oregon. Do we want universal access to health care? Do we believe that all citizens, all Oregonians should have the right to have health care in some way, in some manner? I do. I think most people do. We'd like to have that happen. How will it take place? Well, that's a different issue. We had a decision to make last session. Do you recall? We were asked to either vote in favor as a body, meaning the legislature, of HJR 18, which was this bill that's been now dusted off and given a new number, or Senate Bill 329. The body, the Senate and the House together, said no to a constitutional amendment that doesn't deal with these realities of what it means to have a universal access to health care system, how it will be funded and who will pay for it. And we said yes to Senate Bill 329. And as a result, we now have the Oregon Health Fund Board. We now have given them the assignment to analyze the health care system from top to bottom and determine what the alternatives are, where the strengths and weaknesses are in Oregon, what can be done to reform the system to give better results at less cost, to have good results with less of this constant compounding increase of 7 to 10% in the cost of health care every year. And so we've placed this in motion. That's what we're supposed to do. That was a rational approach. Develop coalitions, set up committees, do deep research, and get a report back on recommendations. That process is taking place today. And we're about to circumvent the whole thing. Why? Because what if they don't do a good job? What if it doesn't get through? What if the people made, a decision that would not be supportive of health care? By us going with the system 329, we will have recommendations that we can then present to the people, that we can answer these questions about cost, quality, the development of the system, how it will look, and who's going to pay for it. And we can give those kinds of answers. None of those answers are available with HJR 100. Let us do our job, which is to represent the people in all aspects of this proposed issue of trying to resolve the concern that we have over adequate, affordable health care that's acceptable to the people of Oregon. Let's let 329 work, and let's vote down HJR 100. Thank you.